Good afternoon, trade pros. Welcome to the final update of this week here for the futures markets. This is Mark from Trade Pro Academy checking in from our headquarters here in Toronto, Ontario. Let's get at this report. So today we had NFP numbers come in. Big miss on that front. Georgie covered that in the YouTube update this morning. And what we're kind of seeing is a little bit of a press back down, a little bit of a pullback in the markets at the moment. And looking to see if we can find some support here on the SPOs, crude as well, finding a little bit of support as well. So let's have a quick peek now at, there we go, quick peek here at these markets, what they're doing, what news came out after Georgie's update. So we only had two things really. We had the 10 a.m. final wholesale inventories. Month over month figure came in at, what was that, 0.8% versus 0.7% expected. And that's really all that we saw on that front. U.S. session, as mentioned, just a quick summary. The change in non-farm payrolls, 75,000 came in versus 175 expected. One thing to note here, however, is that the prior change in non-farm payrolls from last month was revised lower from 263,000 to 224,000. And that is around 40,000, 40,000 jobs there. And if you subtract that from the current payroll number here, the 75K, that comes in at around plus 30. So very bearish on that front. However, market kind of shrugged that off, pressed higher all session really. Now we're kind of seeing a bit of a pullback here. And that's all that we got on that front. A bunch of squawks coming through this morning with regards to Mexico. We had Vice President Pence, Chief of Staff Short, will move ahead with Mexico tariff plan at this point. Trump administration is encouraged about Mexico tariff discussion. Still a long way to go in talks. White House economic advisor Hassett mentioned that the job number was a little lower than expectations, but it doesn't change their outlook. So that's what we got on the economic front. As far as anything remaining, we've got consumer credit month over month figures coming in at 3 p.m. Eastern today. So something else to watch out for. Outside of that, let's take a look at the quote board, see how we're doing on that front. Let me switch over to our charts here and see what we've got. All right, so there is our chart. Let me just pull up my pen tool. There we go. Crude oil, 598,000 contracts so far in the session. Great numbers so far, up 2.45%. SPOs, right around on average volume, 1.06 million plus 1.09%. So both of these markets are quite bullish on this session. Good liquidity as well on both of these assets. So that's what we're watching here. On the pivot charts, I mean, you guys can see both of these held the pivot, testing the R1 here. This could act as a potential resistance. If we get back above there, we could look to retest the R2 up here in the 54.71 region. So that's what we'll be watching for here on crude. You can see we have kind of failed at the R1 already. Granted, we're still 45 minutes away from closing out this candle. So at the moment, we are seeing some resistance at the R1. Back above it, R2 is your next target. Same with the SPOs here. They are well above the pivot, well above the R1, trading into the R2. You can see we've poked our head above it. Now we're kind of retesting that as resistance. If the sellers can hold this, expect the sell down to R1 right around the 2860s. If not, look for this thing to press higher up into that R3. So that's what we've got on those markets. Crude oil, you guys can see nice big bid to start the session. A little sell-off start the session. However, it's been forming higher lows and higher highs as we've been going. Currently at a level of support, the overnight high. Seeing some rotations around here, looking for this thing to press up, ultimately up into these 54.20s as we mentioned. If this thing's going to continue higher, we'll need to see those highs break. That'll look like a breakout, rotation, some support, and continuation. So that's what we're watching for here on crude. On the S&P 500, we are seeing a bit of pullback here. We are seeing little lower lows and lower highs recently here on this 10 tick. And so, sellers are kind of in control at the moment. However, because the overall trend is bullish, the selling is going to be capped really probably by this view app. So that's what we're watching for here. Nice little double bottom starting to form, looking for this thing to press up higher. Your current session high is around the 28.86. Above that, 28.90 is a key level. And if we can crack those highs, we'll probably make a press up into that 2900. So that's what we got for you guys on today's session. A bit of a quick one here since we are setting up our room for the workshop next week. So we're going to finish this off with our TradePro Performance Index, June 7th, today's date, 72.5% were green, 47.5 were up, 25 flat, 27.5 were down. So overall, good bounce back from yesterday's session. As mentioned, today we had a little bit more directional flow in the markets in crude oil and in SPOs. So the team tends to do really well on these kinds of days. And that's what we're seeing here. So that is all that we've got for you guys today. We will not be doing any updates next week, as mentioned, because of that workshop. So no futures midday updates. The morning updates are tentative at this point. So that's what we've got for that. If you guys are going to be trading into the remainder of today's session, make sure to follow those 3 rules. Remain patient, remain diligent, and remain disciplined. Take care, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.